Oh, is everyone good? Following.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 30 speaks for Wally and I, please. 1, I don't want to get walked over by Riley, and I know Wally definitely doesn't want to get walked over by Harrison. Predicts 2 speaks for Robert Harrison, giving 30 solves 1 after he's legit. And the else means MPBs drop the radar, Keith, or future Bruce, not word. It says not only personally lost community in terms of reason, but arbitrary fights. Judgment of internet raising margins, obvious logical win for being fair, otherwise justifies people being theory to win no script out in terms of setting. It's also multiple people rounds instead of just 1 always has to go back to reverse much order. Should be lost 1 for the 1 year and 1 versus 1 something wants to spirit over text this incentivized ability. Means immediate counter interpretation of the introversion of fairness versus 8 considered to basic human activity, which makes fairness in terms of good speech, conflicts, and a winner lose all prove self-defeating every argument. Actually, this is authority frames by presuming that judgment validate fairly often some reciprocal judgment relationship. You just hack the evaluation of fairness, medic check ability, evaluate the round opponent, high time advantage over the there be incongruence and ability to prove the truth for arguments, which means no cross off 3 means more obligation of has merit much of the world balance over the debater who proves the truth falsely. The resolution would be very obviously and normally justified with standard truths and doesn't take out theory. Only moral truth matters because universal only truth installs a resolution. It's running the ballot every turn in a rulebook and in seeing how with this that explicit labels the states per clash, which means it's intrinsic to activity. B runs around the ballot for means protruding A means per false that always jurisdictions judges contracted by the considered rules of the activity when choosing is intrinsic to the political speech times inherent winter PGO, which means the judges have authority to change rules since they enter their own belt absence don't negate. Since they simply prove the absence of all that's theoretically better, not the rest is only false for interpretation negatives. Grant that permissibly presumption for the 1 year by this preemptive inherent to interpret so otherwise incentivizes is the one you run into read multiple names and follow the one of the presumption of permissibly office, which is particularly bad since there isn't a substantial truth on the size of question how long you spend on which means the negligence of every on B. How do you have to invest major time with the 1 year being both gives you the flexibility close to either one within a trigger, only having to answer one or you're waiting 6 me half the time, which even in the format of 1 year 4 or 5 interpretation of affirmative reads both the role valid and normative after the negative C. One of them you violate by contesting both for actually is possible for the 1 year to win both there's a framing role valid when you frame it out a bunch of multiple ways and read a bunch of terms with the half making it impossible for a negative reactivity managed after sojourn one time allocation all the task with this you conceding multiples. This gives me weighing recourse with restriction 1 year rooters without having brute force with the type of clashes conceding 1 force and if the end of assumption of the after it each one says you can't go all in for death always recommending 1 page 100 basis useless reversal framework. The methods of ethical interaction of one dentist is only through exchange of morally relevant ethical characters of obligations to rise one individual sitting and one who has no such thing as right or wrong because there's no other moral property interact with through linguistics the world's mediated through language interaction with others that's necessary for flexible ethics that can explain practical identity in 17. Questioning our individuality is firmly connected to others through language. Then individuality of that is presented by its counter represents the problem of the form. This also applies to all acts. For example, the authors all determined by readers and a reader by authors not just prior to an infinite the 3 ethical theories and slowly they find the good language describing their interests. 2. Methodology want to say there's a problem of grade that don't country philosophers question other numbers of question does not make sense from perspective except mathematics and answers yes because the very notion can be understood only without the frame of persons who are not worrying truth but over value. Volition of the structure of the world that allows relationalities preconditioned by ethics and has intrinsic validity procedures of the world's mechanism of which every agent engages in any activity which means regardless of the content of any other theory as far as it does not obstruct the will of others' ability will that theories intrinsic good be foundations of the world's base for all constitutes ethical subject which means in relation to the world's primary ethical consideration see motivation structure of the world's primary source of all desires reasons beliefs is generates more counsel motivational subject however ethical theories value the will is but they're either purely objective as the extent they structure the world they're read by the subjectivism to the extent as well so to make true moral claims to each routine there's appeal to objective criteria that allow sovereignty individuals to determine themselves with the good life consensus presupposes good for humans identify functions inherent in human nature but it should be left to each individual how he lives life a theory that allows him to objective ideals and materialists and given that something humans on the basis of the constitution these provide very little when it comes to the valid how humans lead their lives the only solution comes out of alienation that sense of will and function capacity to relate from the world criterion that is concerned with how one knows and what one knows E2 Marx capacity willing is achievement no ground machines between subjective and objective positions appears to have willing over a certain way related to oneself and to one else way alienation can be understood as expression of volition and relations of individuals have themselves and the world this comes active preparation the ability of yourself as practical agent capable of taking a project that actively changes on subject the role self E3 appropriation means one part of the manner it makes something around it becomes part of ourselves appropriation of public spaces means more that now one uses them you make them wrong by making a mark what we do with them both appropriate and appropriate transform this a role must always be found as already existing model reinterpreted on advantage with some appropriation would be to make the world one so that having been already appropriation made is recognized by other agencies adopted over the world as your enterprise community recognized using the agent with capacity to so advise so institutions are inevitable it's a question of how you structure them in 13 focus on the brutality colonialism believe in challenge more subtle forms colonialism goals collective political allegiance wrong with larger variable bonds that deny their members equality responsibility what we need is a morally acceptable way of establishing and maintaining political associations thus this interconsistency with the principles of ethical community anti-capitalist governments should aim to prevent alienation as well as create policies that are inclusionary organizations will be criticisms of the standards are fallacy misapplication based only concept that can criticize does misapplication result in skip the reason for now only valid intents one to otherwise ethical theories hold agents responsible for consequences starting from the will which means any reason to be moral based agents cannot control the being punished for 2 induction fails is incoherent that has to justify the future because it's no longer concerned what's happening will have again 3 since scores validity and since we can't know whether the action was good until after seeing which means the judge cannot determine whether the negative good for consequences clearly possible to make down to 5 large percent picked 284 people who made their living off advice on political economic tracks as made 80,361 forecasts expert firm worse than equal probabilities all outcomes because of forecasting the monkeys connection I can then use also require that workers use living wages and our principle you choose any specification of my plan as long as it doesn't violate my general FT one condition living wage is fundamentally distinct from raising the living wage entails a fundamental recognition that individuals not commodities but intrinsically valuable and deserve respect and consideration for their works is that they deserve a certain standard for living for their work is an ideological shift towards recognizing workers teams first and necessary for other employment solutions to your appropriation living wages constitutive element and working laws working to become an end in itself that wants to make a relationship with one another super hard how can I really start well Because work after failure absorbs our resources, work is important for providing human dignity, work enable being integrated in social networks, receiving recognition, experiencing meaning, work is not only means of gain income, it is also in itself. Living wages are a constituent of dignified jobs. Living wages facilitate fruitful employment relationships, social processes beyond work, and individual spheres of fulfillment, recognition, and respect for one jobs, whether for information, identity, decent. Work is facilitated the high recognition, appreciation. 3. Alienation, objectification, living wages recognize individuals as normative agents, facilitates workers to be themselves as active political agents, be identification of criminal workers being a worker right viewing living wage state resulting self-fulfilling prophecy of political alienation. Chapter 19. Research on low wage work highlight political alienation works report lower levels of systemic trash we confirm and relationship between further income willingness to engage in politics with a low wage occupation turn out to be less fulfilling and social reputation might decrease lack of political integration not provide strong incentives for politicians address the issue. Method. Does not apply canvas or nine. Child calls the mother attends that child while the younger child is left in the stroller and begins to cry. That the mother also attended the crying child is true, even though the mother can attend the crying child in the stroller was false. 2. The judge not educating reinforcing the ideals follows her. The last ideals of opposition reinforces political violence thinking or teaks at recruit. Bottom also pedagogy schooling for self-social power and presumption here is the teacher knows best and short years comes to authoritarian model career with any pedagogy that's with the student power. Behavior liberatory pedagogy is a camouflage pedagogical violence and aims to create use of celebration particular agenda. So what to do if they go through motions they carry on oppositional politics. 3. Holmes summarize fictions of the 11. Holmes is false, and Holmes will be true, even though Holmes exists, participants completely use infection operating social development discourse can be committed on acceptable ontological claims.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 and 5 point and epistemology point. Yeah, good.
3, 4, 5 point, all right.
And then epistemology and reasons preferred.
You didn't read Holmes?
Oh, I read Holmes.
So 4 and 5?
Oh yeah, 4 and 5, the epistemology stuff on the reason preferred was the one.
Okay. Yes?
Yeah.
What is a morally relevant ethical character?
A morally relevant ethical character?
Yeah.
What do you mean a morally relevant? Are you asking like a definition of an agent?
What is, you say morally relevant ethical character, what is that?
Morally, I mean, if you're talking about a definition of agency, it's just someone that has wills.
Okay, how do we determine that?
If you have like any desire or reason, like emotion or intuition to take an action or to like think of a certain action, then you're an agent.
Okay, how do we know, like, why can't people just say that person's not thinking? That person's
not thinking?
Yeah, why can't they just say that?
Why can't they just say that?
Yep.
I mean, first we would say that's bad because that's alienating the other person.
But how do you know that
that
avoids the question completely, because how do you know that person's a person?
How do you know that person's, well, I mean, why does that matter?
It
We
matters.
say that we should
You
recognize
don't know,
them.
you're not going to know why it matters until the one and just answer the question.
I mean, I don't think it really does matter because we say we just recognize.
Okay, so you don't think it does matter how we define agency? That's fine.
I mean, I think it matters how we define agency. We just say that we should recognize everyone
Okay,
else.
you don't.
to not
Okay, you
alienate
said it doesn't
anyone.
matter. Let's just move on. Okay, let's talk about like, you know, society and how like we kind of create like communities that can determine some sorts of ethics. What constitutes a community?
What constitutes a community?
Yeah.
I mean, anything really. We can say that like a society, for example, your school can be an example of a community.
So then what are interactions between different communities look like?
Interactions, I mean, we would say that if two communities had disagreements, they'd come to a conclusion through like the process of deliberation, and it's used in like a dialectical sense where one side has a thesis responded to by an antithesis and the two can join to form a synthesis.
Okay, that's fine, but let's say like theoretically like one has like, you know, violently like asserted their own ideas over the other. Is that?
Well, I mean, we would say that's a bad ethical community. We would say that it's not a normally legitimate ethical community because it's like violates the process of alienation.
Any reason to auto vote F other than the preemptive interpretations?
To automatically vote F. I mean, there are no operators in F.
No? Okay, so my next question is, how do you know that humans work in a particular way, that they interact and create ethics if we can't use induction?
If we can't use induction?
Yeah, how do you know this?
I mean, that's just what happens every single, I mean, first
That's
of all, it's not
what
relying on
happens
induction. We
every
make a
single
descriptive claim of the world, i.e. that people interact with
Okay,
other people
but then
through
how do you know
language
they
in the
will,
world.
and how do you know that's how humans tend to do?
Because, I mean, when you engage with someone else, you have a shared language, and you therefore interact with
Seems
them
like
and create
you're
new
using
ideas through
past
that.
examples. That's fine. Let's move on to the Scopa and Beckett evidence. Oh,
I didn't read Scopa and Beckett.
Oh, my fault. Okay, let's move on to truth testing. So your framework says that, you know, society, you know, determines ethics. So in debate, for example, you know, society has determined that judges can vote for non-TAF, you know, all the time, which they have. Finals of the TOC last year, finals in Zion debated. Can you explain like why it's specifically jurisdictional?
It's jurisdictional. I mean, first the argument about like people voting for anything else, it's just it's all fallacy. Just because governments or people do like vote outside of their jurisdiction, like against truth testing doesn't mean they ought to.
Okay.
But second, it's that we've created this norm, i.e. the ethical community of debate, and the NSDA has said and established on the ballot that your like role as a judge and the role of the ballot is to evaluate the truth falsity of the resolution.
Okay. Starting right now.
necessary.
Yeah.
Order's one off case. Alright, sent it. Order on case, overview, framework, contentions.
Let me take it on.
Okay. Settler colonialism is the permeating structure of the nation state which requires elimination of indigenous life and land via the occupation of settlers, appropriation of land, turns natives into goods, and chattel slaves, excess labor, tuck and yank. 12. The rising settler colonial nation requires total appropriation of indigenous life and land that exists on settler sovereignty over all things. Settlers take land as source of capital. The distribution of indigenous relationship to land represents a specific ontological, cosmological violence. The violence temporarily contained by the research each of occupation. Settler colonialism is a structure, and non-embedded settlers are diverse, not just white. This is called decolonization, non-embedded for allows people to contradictory decolonial desires because it turns decolonization into empty, signified to be filled by any track towards liberation. Decolonization must involve the operation of land. Colonialism founded on dialectic violence for the purpose of self-assertion. This hierarchy is sustained through genocide erasure. The settlers force on the indigenous to maintain their structural dominance. 13. Colonialism maintains the hegemony by indigenous possessing the colonized land and resource. Master slave dialect requires realization of a self-determining agent recognized by none subconscious. Hegel's insistence on recognition being mutually. The master can only be recognized by the slave. This hardly constant recognition that all the dialectic relationship provided possibility for mutual freedom is not recognized that the master wants, but rather land, labor, and resource colonial powers will only recognize rights insofar as the recognition is not question from the colonial relationship describing indigenous customs, the residents, settler culture, wage labor, politics are engaged within settler colonial capitalism, purpose on alienating mechanism, reward coerced labor with resources and land produced through dispossession. Turns case came to 19. The work of the non-indigenous people in all forms of premise on dispossession to the land on which work capitalist resources continue to oppress indigenous people, contributes capitalist profitability, confers privilege to the north and indigenous people, which means both inside and outside of capitalist relations, but it's important of the rising the shifting relationship between the social reproduction, capitalist production, allele, contends our dependency on the cash economy is predicated on our alienation from our homelands and waters. We have been starved in submission. We must not be the wage economy to feed our families, but the psychological landscape of contemporary colonialism is defined by corruption of the mind, created a reality in which people are unable to organize their rights as human beings. The inequality of measures proposed to aid indigenous workers do not adequately recognize with the colonial dimension of the oppression. Critique will not make the mistake of suggesting liberation indigenous peoples from this specific form of oppression. They can never be found within the world organized by colonial capitalism. The alternative is refusal. This is a generative practice towards the decolonial futures that must be crushed to make a way for the genocidal rising. Accepting generative refusal to take on the decolonial abolition tradition, make Western thought turn upon some settler colonial knowledge, being the settler colonial meta-narrative of the object of research. Question of substance exposes violent particularities of meta-narrative. Refuse to reverse the original activate European theory, which uses genocide and alienated epistemologies when the U.S. has practiced genocide itself ceases to exist and native peoples can exist as human. The U.S. can no longer determine the condition for being human, and studies can look back to native resistance as the practice that just determines identity. Our interpretation debate is that the judge ought to keep out the absence of research, object of research based on body influence, subjectivity, and capacity for forward model research resistance to settler colonialism. Winning a link to reason the frame justifies violent action should be rejected. Permutation must include the all and the entire method, anything else reference, and the alternatives on conduct. The smooth repetition of settlerism is an academic space where reproduces colonial subjects. Instructing is the only real impact of Frank Henderson. 17 settlers must answer the charge that their life is predicated on genocide. Settlers' position occupied land is the same to a different posture. The decolonization must include analysis of the subject. Settler colonialism can be subverted, creating cracks in the wholeness, pursue restoring settler mythologies, resistance, like a Christian of speech, action, repetition, practice, everyday gives slower space meaning. Case theory. One reason we want to get into extrapolation arguments and the theory response made to 200 means they always win the norm setting debate, reasonably solve perpetually abuse one and and many build arguments also quick to reconcile abuse and get back to educational substance to the fairness arguments. A, the specific rules, not norms, which are flexible. B and C, fairness is being relevant does not mean it's most important. Preserving passage shots that affirming from a broad perspective outside of colonialism more relevant than marginal offense. To try to testing D, disavowed position of fairness within debates, foster inclusion is boarding school logic demands assimilation of arguments before they can exist within our model debate. This is symptomatic of a desire to constantly inflect conversations so let go by further erasing the native just because constituent does not mean it's also just because constituent does not mean it's important because it is also constitutive to make the debate space safe. The truth testing, A, the meta ethic takes out truth testing, social deliberation within the debate space. Affirmative judges who vote on non-PU apps all the time like TOC finals last year and not reading definitions or the rubric is vetting issue for clipping just specifying reading 7 minutes of tags without cards destroys integrity. E, affirmative on the ballot but the implicit bias statement you are required to question race assumptions before evaluating the round cat the shell counter-interpretation that may contest both truth testing and normative philosophy. 1 in 3 piece means affirmative can recap T true framework with truth testing and auto win shots to you. A massively limits how much arguments between splitting your arguments across layers solve their offense which outweigh because you know how forced you to consider arguments be linked to a check. C, opposite for prep for the round predict next strategy double clash A for adequate testing of your entire strategy and search a culpability for racist things in either section which is a turn we rarely get in debate with these absolutes important we clash with every party hijacks proving your interpretation solve accessibility outweighs there's nothing jurisdiction over without debaters and without debaters in within the debate space. Without debaters in the debate space, the will concede presumption affirms permissibility negates framework. The 1, 2, 3 point are all the same. A, the framework relies on the point that ethics are good or true, so sure they exist and they come about the society, but why survivors spend our time doing that? B, the F and the R are to me distinct views are forcing the ethic of decolonization, not contingent on a form of practice and their own consequences fail. Take out their framework, it relies on empirical views that humans deliver over ethics, which is obviously false because they say induction fails. In fact, the framework of content of social practice argument, the K proves that the content of social practice have always been marked by colonization, which means simply accepting the form is structurally colonist and neutrality link for theorizing human rights abstractly away from structural material condition of colonialism, which means there's no method to solve colonialism. One, it's impossible to there will arguments. One, it's impossible to determine who constitutes legitimate moral other. They arbitrarily determine who doesn't have a voice or structural link. The item because I have one, these are always undergirded by colonial stripes. 2, non-integrity, even if it's true, multiple people exist for ethics. It's not proof the particular view of how we should treat the other. The will arguments. 1, colonialism overdetermines it. The will is not neutral, where everyone has equal access to systemic and ongoing colonialism. Means the framework can explain parameter relations to policy of origins because the will allows us to positive value doesn't mean that's the value of the will. The 190 evidence of the appropriation arguments. The fact that quote appropriation mandates recognition by other agents to adopt the world's zero prevents any progress to colonization because it's always going to demand approval. The explanatory arguments. Abstract needs to just want to radicalize massive judged by liberal politics can motivate agents to be better. People say that ethics must always be approached from a perspective that they're already willing to act. The mandates on ID 3 focus on specific political institutions because people can only act within their specific circumstances. The EP 13 links. Winning on links or ontology means the structure of the state is always bad and that indigenous people population should always be able to realize their own ethical situations. That is our argument, which means they can create their own states, but the state right now is to prioritize consequentialism. All the consequential fail arguments except the FA culpability agents always lie about their intents, but looking at the consequences of actions most verifiable bright lines for foresight resolve infinite culpability such butterfly effect, e.g. negligence procedures being known to have foresight. Distinction the predication should for intensity shooting a gun for murder. See, they concede to rely on predictions every day. You waiting on RFDs. Their study has no quantification for experts, and they are expected to provide evidence for the predictions. So remember, their whole framework relies on induction. D, weightability. Only by comparing consequences can the severity of wrongdoing be determined. D, empiric style and Miller. 19. Researchers understand why past research has gone wrong and improve upon it. We're rectifying problems and make better prediction. Expertise requires direct feedback on performance. Prediction plus something which are verifiable. Successful prediction constitutes better evidence and a combination of theory enables us predictions. What more can we ask? Models represent reality. Theorizing knowledge, extent of it's predictive. The problem with complexity is specific empirical details. Offense, recognition. 1, they don't get just fiat ideological shift or anything outside of an increase in wages. A, reinforcement towards what workers are is not consistent of a living wage. 2, turn a living wage commodifies workers by putting a particular numerical value on how much their life is worth and how much comfortability can be given up while maintaining business interests. B, third, a living wage is an economics tool used by politicians to attempt to spread things like consumer spending, which commodifies workers more when $1 raises their wages to $16 an hour. It's not because they haven't changed their hard value their employees, but motivated by economic models that try to increase production. Appropriation. 1, this part identifies all causes you don't solve. It says right after the living wage part, a broader perspective on the attributions of the employment relationship and characteristics of the job is crucial. This turns out because they hold up to living wage sufficient with 4 close to these approaches that your own authors say to keep dignity to turn. This creates an understanding of work where dignified workers study wages, which alienates more workers because it enables companies to mistreat their workers all they want as long as they pay a certain wage. Alienation. 1, consequential card just says as a result of receiving low wages, people not vote as up to turn living wage policy legitimate. The system that is alienating workers is the root cause of this political alienation. I don't think I can see anything. Yeah, also all their method pages are applicable to SCEP, not setcol.
Fifth cross.
Yeah.
Okay. The alt instead of floating pig.
No.
Can alt solve case? Can you? I want you to take
I don't know, but I think like examples of indigenous resistance can show how they're all successful. Like I'm not gonna say it solves the case. I don't know, like solves ethics. Like
can it solve the AF offense?
I mean, I think like indigenous people can determine like specific amounts of like wages, etc.
Okay,
that could
sure.
eventually, but I'm not gonna say like.
Yeah, sure. The Monk 13 evidence, it says the dialectical relationship provided
So
possibility
yeah,
for
so
freedom.
you want me to explain the link? I'm guessing. So the link basically explains like Hegel's recognition to the other and your own evidence, the Wood 19 and your
Oh, we
Yippee
didn't
18.
read- we didn't read Wood 19.
Wait. Your Yippee 18 evidence, appropriation, recognition of the other, which means that in order to be an agent, you must be recognized as another, which also falls into like
We
how
didn't
you
read the Wood evidence though.
But the tag of your Yippee 19 evidence is literally the same as that Wood evidence that you read.
Okay, sure. The Camfield evidence, let's look at it. It says, quote unquote, our dependency on the cash economy is predicated on our alienation from our homelands and waters. This sounds awfully like the affirmative.
Yeah, because it turns to affirmative, but our argument, like, I don't understand.
Okay,
This sounds like the affirmative, like, so what?
So
Like,
we need to
think,
resolve
like,
alienation.
Like, the difference between the
First place.
alternative and the affirmative is look at where the politics start, which is literally the whole case page. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I
Okay.
think it's just a reason why, alternative mechanisms and how wage, labor, and your
Okay,
own
can you
interpretation
explain
can
the
also turn
Camfield-
case and why it negates under tree testing.
Okay, can you explain the Camfield 19 evidence then?
Canfield 19 evidence says basically we're re-legitimizing the state when we implement the living wage. We're saying that the stolen resources that we've taken from indigenous populations can simply just be redistributed to indigenous.
Redistribute. Wait, why is the AF like inherently redistributing like wealth?
The living wage is the redistribution of economic monetary
Wait,
value
why?
to
Okay,
individuals. What?
redistribution of economic monetary value.
What do you think money comes from, bro? Resources, trade, bartering, like, bro, like they come from selling.
Okay, wait.
buying
Why is
goods.
so why is the affirmative like a explicit defense of work? Like, why do we
What do
say
you mean
like
work?
all like
It's
wages?
your defense of a living wage.
Okay, but why is a living wage constitutively doing that?
What do you mean? What do you mean constitutively doing that? Like that's just how it would be implemented.
That's just how it be. Okay, sure.
What?
Let's go to the offense turns. Can you explain they don't get to just fiat an ideological shift when our offense is just saying that a living wage
No,
recognizes
because your
workers as
authors,
living?
your own authors acknowledge the fact that it is not like there are other factors that lead to things that.
Wait, but we didn't read a card for the recognition offense. That's just your answers to the appropriation offense.
Okay, well then it's a preemptive one of your responses that you gotta say that it's a constitutive of being a living wage and other factors contribute.
Okay, wait. Just because there are other alt causes, why does that not mean that the AF is still a good thing under that?
You just don't get to
framework?
fiat that. It's ideology.
We just don't get to fiat that, but we said that
What do you
living wage
mean?
in itself.
If you
is a
prove that it's
recognition
somehow
agency.
constitutive of it, sure. But I don't think you will.
Okay, sure. I'll cross there. Start prepping now. Oh, did you read all the stuff on the alienation turns?
Yeah.
Okay. Any RBIs? Independent voting issues?
RBIs?
Yeah. RVIs.
Like
reverse
on the
voting
shells?
issues on the shells.
No.
Any independent voting issues?
I think so. I mean, I think links are a problem for you, but.
Oh, wait, just links. So you link, you lose. Right. Oh, what was the response to Richard?
Which card was that?
The method page. Was there one?
Accessibility outweighs.
Okay. I can stop that there. Oh, 437.
What's the order?
It's just going to be truth testing, case, then the K. Alright. Is it all good?
First, on truth testing, yes, pre-post, value distinction. 1, we don't believe all the arguments we need to read and debate. Second, when you value the truth of arguments, you don't value how they affect your valuation. For example, if you chose 1, you wouldn't vote for the debater who would be the happiest winning, with winning, or who needs it the most. You vote on who wins the flow. Pre-post, distinction means though cross-off from the after on truth testing. On truth testing, you extend the role of the balance of vote for the debater who's true, the falsity, the resolution run the ballot, every turn the rule book in and to see him with the label the states for clash, and they conceded the affirmative game. Affirmative game means to prove the truth of falsity, and it's prove the truth of falsity. The resolution is literally run the ballot, which means it's a jurisdictional issue. I.e., you can't vote on anything else because it's literally your constitutive statement, which the NSDA says. Which the NSDA specifically says. So we'll do the llama and the truth of the truth things here. First, they say that judges vote on other arguments all the time, but it's just not valid just because judges do vote on yes and etc. And arguments outside of truth things doesn't mean they ought to the quality statement. It's literally just the argument on why people want to be an impartial adjudicator. For example, i.e. truth testing, because the implicit bias statement just means that you can't vote on other people's vote based on your implicit biases. I.e. like looking at someone and for example them being like a certain race, for example, and voting against that, which means you just be an impartial adjudicator. Either way, conceded the record evidence that your model of critical pedagogy places the judge in a position of artificial authority to determine the best strategy to achieve an end. This is unique to the product of pedagogy because it lacks any objective metric to determine the best way to solve a problem, but rather begins from the premise that one model of the world is bad and sees it deconstructed, and those methods of deconstruction can only be determined by the opinion like the judge, regardless of content or which side you agree with on a particular issue. Requires a model of education where the judge reinforces their own understanding of a particular problem on his students or arbitrarily encourages a shift away from rational condensation, which is a horrible model because it emphasizes judge intervention by allowing the judge to insert their own view of the world into their decision-making procedure, which justifies in-around violence with things like hacking for against their identities. B prevents students from being able to develop their own understandings of the world because they are told their viewpoints incorrect by the authority decisions of the judge, and sees a breeding ground for fascism through the dehumanization of individuals who disagree with a particular way to view the world, which means it not only justifies truth, but is an independent turn against the K on the case. conceded indexicals, that's the Joyce evidence. Extent Joyce, the ethical frameworks are always insular since each framework has its own conception of what counts as a justification, and frameworks do not have the linguistic ability to criticize the truthfality of one another. That means if I went under one ethics that the act is true, then you affirm piece that the practice that negates does not deny the fact that the practice affirm, which means that I think the resolution is true, which means you can vote on it. They also conceded that Hegel affirms the resolution, which is sufficient index to affirm under truth. We'll go for the recognition offense specifically, because the living, which is a constitutive recognition of a worker being a human prior to being a worker, because it's a living wage. It's a semantical way to interpret it, which means that all their arguments on why, quote unquote, there are all alternative causes don't matter, because under that framework and Hegel's framework would still be a good thing, because it's recognizing the agency of workers in the first place. It also takes out the KPS practice operate logically independent of one another. So even if you win your theory is true, I can operate under my index that is false, and the two are not mutually exclusive. That means every negative argument is irrelevant, since I can operate under my own index and prove the resolution is true under my framework, which is a sufficient reason to affirm right now. Okay. We'll start on the framework, evaluate the after is a method for resolving except the colonial balance, and we win, we solve better than the all you vote after. The affirmative is not a legitimate standard for determining effective resistance strategy. You lose produces advocates who are great at pointing out flaws but incapable of effectively advocating for and actualizing change. The enterprise is blown out of proportion. We agree racism is bad, but nothing we did is normally close to saying us learning from our method is better. It's also residual offense with the line here on the debate on the debate and subjectivity stuff. One, no, debate doesn't shape subjectivity. Choosing debate and not have a 2-hour conversation about setcol proves over competition over determines. But second, absolute humility. Debate doesn't shape subjectivity, even if it does only turn link that fairness, because anything else that means we don't internalize and talk about unfairness. This is no you link, you lose. One, you should have to win a better explanation response to colonialism. Second, it's a weighing question. If you win a link, if you win the broader structure that resolves those links and the root cause, then we solve better. Anything else is moved to innocence because you have a minor violation. You think you've done something on the headers and evidence. One, the reason why your performance in this round solves setcol has become the repetitive settler practice debate. Second, proves we need culpability only apples. Settlers accountable. Okay, proper. One, the act is literally the KR framework says that everyone has a unique subject position, so we should let them relate to their role in others' unique and meaningful ways by recognizing them as agents, not alienating them from their role. That means our framework can explain why colonization is bad, alienates indigenous people from the relationship to the land as a refusal to recognize them as part of our ethical community. That proves the one to see quality action is a good idea. It's a good idea because it's an active recognition of indigenous people who, which undergoes the process of colonialism, which justifies appropriation to the framework proves your office. Link turns the case saying the social institutions are inevitable. The question is how we should structure them. The one to see doesn't have an explanation of how, other than not colonial, but that doesn't solve our problems like intermediate violence. How we move beyond the all third is ideal theory, solves the key better explanatory power measurements. Ideal theory is key to definition of what the good is such that we can justify why a person's bad motivate action, measure actions against the universal standard, so we can ensure we're making progress.
Okay. Prep time 4 minutes. The index was Hegel's true?
Oh, Hegel's true, and I think the resolution is good.
Okay. equals truth testing and truth testing slash K case.
Index truth testing K case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone not ready? Every single argument they make that they say I quote unquote conceded has new implications. The one area, so I should get to respond to them either why they take out the K or why index equals literally takes out everything else, which means I get to respond on what they mean in the context of your debate first. The index equals argument one. The only index that should matter is the judge's index because that's what the arbiter is in this round of how they should divide the round. Two, it triggers permissibility because any index could be quantifiable, which means anything could be obligatory or prohibitory, which means it's best permissible, which you concede negates. Three, index equals is racism. It means that any index that says you like racism is good is specifically good for you concede the Hegel terms, and I'll get on to setcol terms as to why Hegel specifically negates specifically negates the truth testing ballot debate. One can see accessibility outweighs jurisdiction, which means that we have nothing to jurisdiction for over if there's no debaters within the circuit, which means takes out all your constitutional claims. Two, you conceded that there's an implicit bias statement within the affirmative, and that there's no affirm and negate on the ballot, but just aff and neg, which means that implicit bias statement over determines this argument. So you prioritize accessibility in this round. So the record evidence one, and the implication is that it takes out the critique, but the only warrant is that it just promotes the judge an ideological superiority position. But that's not unique with truth testing because you also do the exact same thing, and that also means we can't read impacts that you might think are bad or good because it means you can assert your own impacts. That's what it means that it's irresolvable at best and infinitely regressive, which means the record evidence straight up gets taken away and it's just indicted their own framework independently. If they're not winning constitutive arguments, our impacts are supercharged because it means that there's no reason why that specific decision of placing you in that position to determine whether truth testing is good or bad is specifically the right one because you're still placed in a superior position. They've not explained why it's different. Even impacts that are related to the resolution that relate to racism, you have not explained why that's different, why the judge can just not evaluate them because they think that. It's not unique. Okay. Settler colonialism exists as a false dichotomy between exclusion or native assimilation in civil society. That is something that should be rejected as a D rule, nor in the one you have to answer this claim. They've conceded the ontology argument, which is damning for them because it means that no matter what the state teaches, it's always bad. They cannot explain why native individuals are put into boarding schools. They cannot explain why smallpox viruses were thrown over natives, which means that it also disproves the resolutionary truth because it proves it false because any action the state does is inherently alienating, which is bad because which is obviously bad. That also consider our framework, also functionally consider our framework interpretation, which is the Henderson evidence, which should outweigh any of the claims because of the study that speech accent actually change our subjectivities. Why more people are reading setcol this year than anyone, which is our own example, shows that we can rupture our own subjectivities, which is a net good thing, which means that there's no impact to the ballot for them, which means we have ballot proximity, which is a net good. Also, the linky lose argument, they just say we have to prove our method is not better. Every dissent to their own method or their own research act proves that their method is not worse because it's riddled with settler colonialism, which means that their method is bad and is distance from the permutation, which means they don't get new permutations. We're going for the neutrality link. The affirmative is predicated on neutral understanding of prior relations of the subject that misidentifies the structure of violence in such a way that produces colonialism. The idea that we all need to recognize that violence happens and just to help people not to grapple with structural conditions of the world. The structural conditions of the world is a bad one because it's not giving us a mechanism to actually approach this sort of changes. Even if one of your opposers, you can tell us that it's bad, that's not good, that you tell us that human rights is good, it's not good enough because that analysis stops there on predator. Settlers are able to absolve themselves of guilt by saying that I recognize that I take the land, is bad, but does not explain why the United States should not give her land. Under their framework, it would be obligatory because it's inherently alienating, which is supercharged by the fact that conceded consequences do matter, which means under their framework it's a coercive of the will, which is a link. Also, they concede material conditions over determines this neutrality link about politics. Think about Democrats; they say yes, let's recognize human rights, but does that actually do anything? No, because Native people are still supercharged by ontology arguments. Going for the supercharged by our ontology arguments, the permutations. They say ideal theory is good. They conceded that ideal theory it could motivate individuals, but that's the problem. It does not motivate because, for example, you just reading Hegel does not motivate you to decolonize. You're just saying you do. If you tell a racist person Hegel, are they going to decolonize? No, because they don't already have the impacts to decolonize. But they give them a specific method, which our whole links are that the politics are infringed on the fact that they're infringed on the fact of colonial assumptions that are bad. Even if they're giving you every single argument why humans are equal or why ideal theory is good, it is not good because they have started with the assumption that social inequities do not exist and structures do not overdetermine the world, which means the ontology claim is an epistemological claim, which explains how we can determine the will, which settlers determine the will and say that indigenous people are not people who have wills, which is obviously a link to their argument. The permutation. They say institution level. They can see our response that you're right, institution level, but the specific United States has always been a bad actor, which is proven by our ontology claim, and that they conceded that indigenous actors will be different, which means that even if the states are level, the indigenous actors will just be net better. Those conceded do not give them any too early leeway. They have not responded. And the 1 year was way too blippy. They say ideal theory is good, but you conceded that even if you conceded it's not motivating and it abstracts away from material conditions, that does not allow us to actually build up methods that can do things. All you're saying is that settler colonialism is bad. Questions you should be left with is why. Let me think. Okay, I'll. Oh, the AF framework stuff. You say AF framework recognizes agency operates with turns that critique. No, it does not. You conceded every single turn-on case as to why the living wage specifically works. It does not because it reduces workers to a numerical value, which is both a turn-on case and a turn-on values. Let me think. Okay. Here. Okay. Thank you. Okay, look, we've impacted communal authority. We said it makes decolonization impossible, which means if they go for any permutation, because it requires the recognition of the other, they have to recognize indigenous populations as something that is necessary for agency, as they have agency, that they have a will in order to do that. And if that's determined by the community, and you have no idea what the will is, that just leads to colonial violence constantly. Go ahead.
Okay, 23 seconds left for Pat. I'll start that now. Just gonna be truth testing, then the F, our next schools, essentially. Okay. Oh, is everyone good? Cool. Insofar as they've conceded every single implication of the rigor evidence means that weak turn accessibility, in that insofar as insofar as truth testing is the best way to make it most accessible. Your model of critical pedagogy places the judge in a position of artificial authority to determine the best strategy to achieve an end, regardless of the content of which side you agree with on a particular issue. It requires a model of education where the judge enforces their own understanding of a particular problem onto students arbitrarily and encourages a shift away from rational contestation, which emphasizes judge intervention by allowing the judge to insert their own view of the world into their decision-making procedure, which justifies inbound violence through things like hacking for or against certain identities. Also turns your implicit bias statement stuff, because the only way you can avoid that is through being an impartial adjudicator, which justifies truth testing. We turn accessibility and we're winning constitutivism. We're winning that we have an internal to jurisdiction through the constitutivism argument, because they've conceded that affirmative negate are written on the ballot and that the resolution is written in every single turn registration rulebook, which means it's outside of your jurisdiction to vote on anything else. It means you can't evaluate their framework into first, and insofar as I win something that proves the truth of the resolution means you automatically affirm. You can go to automatically affirm. We'll do the line by line stuff here. They say it's not unique with truth testing, but no, it's because we're forcing the judge to determine representations as educators. Is specifically the argument we should critique, and we say you should be an impartial adjudicator, i.e. truth testing. They say why the judge should not evaluate should be able to evaluate racist questions, but no, because it means the racist judge could just say fuck you and not care about anything you say, which means that truth testing and being an impartial adjudicator would be able to solve that and solve that. The indexable stuff. Conceded every single implication of Dexels and the Joyce evidence that ethical frameworks are always insertions. Each framework has its own conception of what counts as justifications. The frameworks do not have the linguistic ability to criticize the truth value of one another. You have to vote on this argument. We'll answer all the arguments here. The first is in indexables that only the index should matter if it's a judge index, but conceded the pre-post-fact distinction takes it out because index was an argument inside the context of the resolution, not how you should evaluate the debate. Second, they say triggers permissively, but even though it would quote-unquote trigger permissively, insofar as I win an obligation under one index means it's enough to prove an obligation under the resolution, because different frameworks just literally can't linguistically compare between one another, which is the argument the Joyce evidence making another, which means if I win indexables means under truth testing is enough to prove the resolution true. Also independently conceded that under my index the resolution affirms and have not extended a single warrant as to why Hegel negates in the two, nor extend that living wage constitutively and semantically means a recognition of workers because insofar as a living wage recognizes a living means that they prioritize a worker being a human prior to just purely being a worker on the
indexal's racist argument? No. One indexal says there's no objective moral truth, so you can't impose your racist indexal on other people that deem them lesser as that action is in itself incoherent. Against the pre-post fact distinctions normally true fact about odd statements that doesn't mean we incorporate our real mentality justifies only using in the context of the resolution. Third, you reject our logic, no one would do debate if they provided us with racist resolutions. Fourth, through analysis proves we intuitively wouldn't use indexals in circumstances we deem morally reprehensible with false. Also, independently conceded takes out the KBS practice operate logically independent of one another. So even if when your theory is true, I can operate under my own index that is false, and the two are not mutually exclusive. Means every negative argument is irrelevant, since I can operate under my own index and prove the rest is true under my framework, which is sufficient reason auto affirm. Look, truth testing conceded constitutionalism outweighs, and accessibility is worse because of the record.
Good debate.
And indexals. Fair.